Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 389 of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The Second Amendment podcast is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and tonight I am joined by, I guess she's the greatest hostess in the entire universe. She is a pain in the butt, but she's also a delight. Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
So I had a window of productiveness today, and I managed to ruthlessly cut down my unread emails from over 300 to 69.
You need to finish that story.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to say nice, but all right. So I took a screenshot of that. It's just, inbox 69. I posted it to my Facebook if you follow. Well, you need to be one of my friends. Maybe I'll make it public. And I posted it to ChatGPT because I like talking to ChatGPT. And all I'm going to say is my ChatGPT gets me because the response, it's 3 one-line paragraphs, and literally the first one is nice.
Nice.
The second line is balanced, symmetrical, perfectly unread. And the last line is, honestly, that's the email equivalent of a natural 20 on not opening anything. And it's just like, you get me. You get me so well.
That reminds me, my emails have absolutely piled up. I hope there is not a fan of the show that has left me. I'm normally quite prompt about that sort of stuff, but it's been a week.
It's been.
But speaking of this week, I went back up to Maine this weekend and saw my folks. My dad is still, he's got a long road ahead of him, but he is recovering quite well, like noticeably. And so I am feeling very optimistic that he will have at least a reasonable partial recovery in the fact that he will be able to do and enjoy most of the things that he has done before. So that's really, really good news. And again, he's happy to see everybody, but he is frustrated as hell that he is stuck in this predicament.
Mm-hmm. How old is he again?
I don't even know. He's in his late 70s.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Yep.
Just you say a partial recovery, and I'm wondering, okay, what isn't going to recover, and how much of that is because of his age versus how much of that is the damage done by the stroke? Yeah, well, like I said, there's last week, there's a lot of damage that was done. So it's not going to just be because some people, have a stroke and they're absolutely in terrible shape, and then they regain a lot of the function back very, very quickly. That's definitely not the kind that he had, unfortunately. But he is up and walking. He needs quite a bit of assistance to do it, but he is able to support himself on, support his own weight and shuffle along a little bit. There's like I said, he needs some assistance because again, he's got one foot that's not doing anything at all and one arm that is not doing anything at all. So that's going to be a challenge. But again, he was actually able to move the right arm a little bit, and that was not happening. I didn't see a lot of movement on the leg, but again, he's able to support it. And I didn't ask the therapist because we went to see him for physical therapy because I wanted to see him in action and also make fun of him because he's just like, "All right, you ready to go again?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm hearing you huff and puff, Dad. You need a second to rest." And he kind of looked at me because he's like, "Yeah, you're right, but I don't want to say that." He was he was able to, move the arm a bit and move around a bit. They've kind of braced his leg. Oh, I was going to ask the therapist, because he was saying, I believe there's some stuff where the sympathetic nervous system is being triggered, so that when he is actually putting weight down on the leg, even though he's not actually controlling it, it is stabilizing and pressing down against the ground. I got that impression. So either way, we will see. He's getting a lot of work. My mom was just talking about, like, maybe not even, there's a nursing home in the facility that he's at, and there was talk of moving him to the nursing facility for further rehab, but closer to home. But mom's even suggesting if he keeps improving like this, they'll just move him straight back to the apartment, and then she could just wheel him over in a wheelchair over to there to get physical therapy, as prescribed. Yeah, it's things are looking up.
Good. So things are looking up for our troops, and things aren't looking up for Pam Bondi.
Nope. I wanted to lead with that, and well, actually, Aaron, I think you would probably have the best take on this, being that Pam Bondi is from the great state of Florida, as are you.
I mean, I don't really know, because I don't keep up with a whole lot of current events, because I'm prioritizing my peace of mind and my blood pressure. But I have not made a secret that I don't think very highly of Pam Bondi, and I think she has been doing a terrible job, and apparently Trump thinks so too, only for entirely different reasons. And so he has fired her, like he has fired so many people in his administration, which is somewhat unusual in this case, because usually when he fires people, it seems like there's some friction between them, like when he fired Mattis. And this time, it seemed like the friction was only going one way, because she wasn't prosecuting as quickly as he wanted her to prosecute, but she was talking him up in front of Congress and was his biggest cheerleader. And so, I'm not really sure what the relationship is here, but he got rid of her, and I'm not saying everything's going to be better now that she's gone, but it's sure not going to get worse. And, well, no, actually, I'm too much of a cynic to say that. It can always get worse. But what I mean is, I've said it multiple times, she is not pro-Second Amendment. And maybe with her out of the way, we can see more pro-Second Amendment rulings. We can see more of the gun prohibitions being walked back. Maybe the ATF will start conceding more cases, things like that. So that's really all I have to say. Now, Weer'd, you're the political junkie. You probably have more inside scoop than I do.
I mean, I have some more inside scoop. I don't think much of it is relevant to the Assorted Calibers podcast, as we are nonpartisan and all that. So the reasons for Trump getting rid of her, I mean, weren't really, again, haven't been openly said. There's a lot of speculation, and isn't really all that relevant. I think the most relevant thing is the fact that she is, again, not a fan of the Second Amendment. She was one of the picks that we were saying from the very, very beginning is not a choice that we were excited about, because of all of her relationship with the recent spate of terrible Florida gun laws. And of course, the fact that, there hasn't really been a huge priority of the Second Amendment. And I will just say the one thing that I have high hopes for is that no matter what you say about the Republican Party, and we could say a lot, and only some of which we could say on a clean show like the Assorted Calibers podcast, is that their platform is pro-Second Amendment. They say that they are the party of the Second Amendment. Again, I say that with a lot of sarcasm font added to it. And but the fact that we are going into a midterm this is the time when the key players within the party try to position themselves as the type of Republicans that they claim to be versus the type of Republicans that they may actually be. And so I have my hopes that this new AG, I'm not that familiar with him. Don't even know his name off the top of my head. I'm scanning really quickly through this article to see if they have him listed, but we will see. But I just have to imagine that it will at least be nominally better just to gin up the support from the base heading into the midterms. And actually, another thing that I think bodes well is the fact that this recent announcement from Pete Hegseth. So he's I think he's still technically the Secretary of Defense by definition. I don't think they officially changed it to Department of War. But so he.
I think they have.
Okay.
Because that's how he refers to it, and at the very end of the video on the linked site, it says U.S. Department of War.
Okay. Well then, yeah. So Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has said that they are essentially lifting the policy that essentially bans service members from legally concealed carrying on base. And so it's not a perfect thing, in my opinion, in the fact that this only applies to service members, and it only applies to service members who are not actively on duty at the time. But it's still a step in the absolute right direction, in my opinion. One of the big bummers is that it's not for civilians, because as a podcaster, we rub elbows with a lot of truckers, because truckers love podcasts. And the number of truckers that I know that are just like, oh, I deliver on bases, and it's just such a pain in the butt because I travel with a firearm, and so I've got to lock it all up in such a way for it to be compliant with the with base security and all that. And again, it's all, dumbness, and especially also with we'll talk about it a little bit, but bases aren't that secure. They've got the secure perimeter, but again, it's easy to sneak stuff through. It's not like the guards are, tearing apart every single vehicle that's coming in and going through every last article of, bag or clothing that you have if you're walking on the base. And then once you're on the base, unless you're in a spot where there happens to be an MP there at that moment, or you're in one of the areas that may be designated to always be under armed guard, you're not going to encounter, despite it being a military base, you're actually not going to encounter that many people with guns.
So, I'm looking at the recent tragedies, and I guess because it's not recent, they didn't mention the 2009 Fort Hood shooting, where a U.S. Army major brought a gun on base. And I bring this up also because... So I was an Army brat, and for like the first 12 or so years of my life, I was constantly, if I wasn't living on the Army base, then I was living near it and then going onto it for school and things like that. And my father was an officer, and officers' cars are generally waved through with much less problem than enlisted cars, because the way it works, well, no, let me qualify that. The way it worked when my father was active duty was that there would be a sticker on the windshield of the car, just like with any other sort of job where you have restricted parking. But one of the things that would be on that sticker would be the rank emblem, so that the guard could see, for example, okay, this is a colonel's car. And there are certain people you don't want to keep waiting. A second lieutenant, a first lieutenant, meh. But once they start getting up into, flag grade, you wave them on through. And so I can't remember all the times that not just my father, but my mother driving the car with the thing that said, Army and Lieutenant Colonel. It was just like nod, or if my father was there, salute and just wave them onto base. Didn't check the car at all, didn't check identification at all. If you've got the sticker, most of the time you're assumed that it's okay that you're there. And we could have had anything back there. Honestly, the only time that sort of thing didn't happen was when they were doing an exercise or there had been some sort of credible threat or something. And at that point, they were just stopping everyone and doing a search of the cars to various degrees. So, yeah, in the case of the Fort Hood shooter, actually, I didn't study how he got the gun in. I may be talking at my rear end. But if you are an officer and they're just waving you on in, you could bring pretty much anything onto the base and no one would know until you started misusing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure both the Fort Hood shooters, because there was also one in 2014, which on the Wikipedia page right now, because I just wanted to confirm what year it was. And it says, on April 2nd, 2014, the 2014 Fort Hood shooting, not to be confused with the 2009 Fort Hood shooting. And so, yeah, there's the fact that like just a few years apart, the same military base in Texas, of all places, was hit twice, is ridiculous. And that was one of the first things that got me to strongly be against the prohibition of private arms on military bases, because the idea that our soldiers are a soft target is ridiculous. But yeah, I believe he just had the gun in his car. It was in a box. So it's one of those, like, even if they were looking in, they would see a box. And are they going to open every single box and every container in the car?
Unlikely, because again, you've got this perimeter. There are only a few gates and people are trying to get in to go to work. And if you are going to inspect everything, you're going to massively slow down the inflow of soldiers or sailors or airmen or whatever. And, on the one hand, you have your duty to make sure that prohibited people and prohibited items don't get in. But on the other hand, if you were preventing, the base commander from getting to his office, that's a different kind of problem. So, yeah, they are pretty porous in a lot of ways.
Yep. And so I am absolutely all for this. I think this is a great ruling. Also, the fact that it's coming from, Pete Hegseth himself. I think that there's still chances that some commanders can not allow it. It's going to essentially need the blessing of the brass of the base. But again, given how Pete Hegseth has been cleaning house in the armed forces, I've got to imagine that people will need to have a very good reason if they're going to start denying people's rights to carry while on base.
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't seen the actual memo, but from what he said, he did it in a way that, I approve of, whatever that's worth. It didn't seem like he went into a whole lot of doctrine about who can and who can't. He was directing the commanders of bases, I want this to happen, make it happen. And that's how the chain of command works. You don't micromanage people in the military, at least you shouldn't. There's a story which I think I've told that ended up on a blooper reel. My father was telling me how to be an officer, and the story goes, you have a couple of fresh second lieutenants, and they are asked, well, we want you to put up this flagpole. how would you do it? And the answers are some variation of, well, I'd go requisition the materials and I'd assemble a team and I'd do this and that. And it was very detailed. And then the final person, the one who got it right, said, well, I would turn to my sergeant major and say, Sergeant Major, put up that flagpole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's supposed to be done. As the officer, you don't micromanage. You tell someone to make it happen, and then your subordinates make it happen. That's how the E4 Mafia exists. And so that's what I got from Hegseth. He was simply saying, I don't want personal carry on bases to be forbidden, so it's now permitted, and you guys work it out. And yes, I agree. It's not going to be instant. There are going to need to be things that are ironed out, but that's not his job. His job is to say, make it happen, and then his subordinates make it happen, and they come back to him, and they say, we've made it happen, sir. And he says, good job, carry on.
Well, I like that even more. But you know what I don't like, Aaron? I had to put this in there because while I absolutely support the rights of everyone to keep and bear arms and wherever they are, and that includes military personnel and non-military personnel on military bases, the anti-gun groups, the gun prohibitionists, they do what they do, which is they want to prohibit guns at all costs. And so the headline here is Brady responds to Hegseth's new Department of Defense personal firearms policy, warns of danger. And this is Tanya. Would you pronounce that Shart?
I honestly, I would emphasize the D more, but yeah, Shart. Yes, it sounds like Shart. It really does.
I will use my my editorial discretion like I do with the name of Ryan Bussey, and I will call her Tanya Shart. She is Brady's senior counsel and director of state and federal policy, which, by the way, may I note that long handle for an illustrious group like Brady is very heartening. She has to do a lot of work there. She says, our military installations are among the most guarded and protected properties in the world. We've already talked about the multiple attacks on military bases and how well protected they are. And they've never been gun-free zones. This was a common one from all the various attacks that have happened on the various military bases, and the fact that, like, oh, these are not gun-free zones. Like, oh yeah? Well, where were the guns? Why was it only the bad guy doing the shooting? And actually, I know the Fort Hood shooting that with the major, that one was stopped by a civilian police officer. There was an event going on, and the base had hired some of the town cops to come in and direct traffic. And when the gunshots started happening, it was a female cop, and she ran towards the gunshots and shot the guy. I'm trying to remember who stopped the shooting in the other one, and I believe I've closed the tab, but it's not that important. But again, in this case, it wasn't even stopped by other military members. It was a civilian with a firearm. But if there's a problem with violent crimes on these installations, the Secretary of Defense has an obligation to alert the American people and describe how he's working to prevent that crime. He is. Let's see. If there's not a violent crime problem, then who and what is this policy for? Answered. And then here's the big one that I wanted to get onto. We know that our nation's service members and veterans are more likely to die by suicide than their civilian counterparts. So we'll be doing everything possible to improve their mental health supports and services, not implementing a policy that solves no discernible problem and has no widespread military support. So this is almost a great point. It's almost a good point. Because yes, indeed, there is an elevated suicide risk when it comes to military personnel. And absolutely, that is one of the few things where I would advise people not to have firearms around, is if you feel like you are at a suicide risk. That is, of course, not everybody. Suicide is a major issue in this country, but it is not such a major issue that we need to do as drastic things as the gun prohibitionists say. But what I want to say to completely blow up that seemingly good point is that the Brady campaign, among all the gun prohibitionists, are constantly drafting laws and sending laws to various state, local, and federal legislatures to be passed. And in these laws, every single one of them, I can't think of a single one. There's been a few where it's been by mistake, like the New York SAFE Act, has exempted police officers. Police officers can pretty much get whatever they want for firearms. They get their high capacity magazines. I've constantly said, I cannot go into a gun shop and buy a brand new Glock 19, but yet I can walk down most streets in most towns in Massachusetts and see a brand new Glock 19 in a holster, because police officers get Glocks all the time and most departments issue them, even though we're in Massachusetts. And so the M&P is quite popular. But yeah, they exempt it. And indeed, not only do military service members have a higher risk of suicide, so do law enforcement personnel. And yet they are perfectly fine with letting these people have guns and keep guns in their homes and carry firearms with all the exemptions of law enforcement officers. But somehow they have a problem with military service members carrying firearms when off duty. You make that make sense? Let me know.
Yeah, I can make it make sense. You just won't like it.
Okay.
Well, I guess it depends on how you mean make sense. I can explain their reasoning. How about that?
Okay.
They are scared of the military and don't like it. And they wish that they could disarm the military completely, but they can't. And they probably realize at some level they need the military, but let's not let the warfighters have their own opinions. They believe very firmly in chain of command, except when they don't. Meanwhile, the police are largely seen as the enforcers, because every time some talking head or politician starts going on about the gun problem in the United States, someone somewhere brings up the notion of police going door to door to confiscate firearms. And you need those police to be armed in order to take the firearms from the people who don't want to be disarmed. So the police at the moment are a necessary evil, but when comes the proverbial revolution and the disarmament happens, the police aren't going to be scared. They're just going to be fed to the alligators last, because the ultimate end result is going to be a disarmed populace. And you will always need armed enforcers, but you need as few of them as possible. That's my attempt at making it make sense.
I mean, that makes sense in reality versus in what they are trying to lie their way into.
Oh well, I mean, I can't help you there.
Yeah, no, that is yeah. They don't care about suicide. They don't care about personal safety. Again, they make that statement about the fact that is there a violent crime problem? And he said so in his statement. Yes. There have been many attacks on bases. And they are gun-free zones, because unless you are specifically assigned to guard duty and are issued a weapon, and again, oftentimes, talk to service members, how often are they issued weapons with no ammo? There's even actually, I'll dig it up and throw it in the show notes, but Ian McCullum actually interviewed I'm trying to remember I think he was a Vietnam vet, and he was guarding an embassy. And because of the embassy rules, they weren't allowed to be issued firearms. And they actually had the Mattel mock-up M16 that they would give people so that it have the appearance of a loaded gun without needing to have it's the gun, but it has magazines in it. Are we sure that the magazines are unloaded, et cetera, et cetera? And he thinks that may be the origin of the, Mattel made stocks for the M16.
Oh, could be.
Yeah. But either way, again, there's a lot of instances where people are on guard duty with firearms, but either are not issued ammo or issued just like a handful of cartridges, like all sorts of ridiculous stuff that none of us would ever do. At, the point of, why would we carry a partially loaded magazine, or why would we carry, why would we carry an empty gun? We wouldn't. What's the point? And so, but the military does goofy things. And so Pete Hegseth is saying, if you're off duty and you're not under somebody's command and telling you what to carry and what to do, carry what you want, so long as you can legally do so. And, that's awesome, because that will definitely make the various bad actors, both service members and otherwise, think twice before doing something like the previous attacks.
And to answer your previous question, the 2014 Fort Hood shooter, was confronted by military police who shot at him and missed, but that prompted the shooter to commit suicide. So, as far as I'm concerned, the MP stopped him just indirectly.
Yeah. That was the anti-gun spin on the megachurch shooting in Colorado, where the one of the security staff there confronted the shooter, wounded him. And number one, they'll note that she was a former police officer, but she was there as just a parishioner and was chosen because of her police background as someone to be part of the security team for this church. So they were trying to claim that she was a police officer, not just a private individual with a concealed carry permit. And then she shot and wounded the killer, and he ended up shooting himself before anybody else could do anything further. And they claimed that, oh no, she didn't stop him, he shot himself. Yeah. She shot himself because he was wounded. We will call that. And either way, a service member killed the threat.
Mm-hmm.
So my segue towards to this one is that even though this ruling from Pete Hegseth is not what I would consider ideal, I do like for us to take a page out of the gun prohibitionist playbook, which is any step in the right direction should be considered a victory. And let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. And so I'm very, very happy with that. And another page out of the gun prohibitionist playbook is what the Firearms Policy Coalition has done, which is the State Freedom Index. And so this is, I've got the link in the show notes. And let me tell you, if you're one of the people that doesn't read the show notes for the show, go over and click on this, because this is great. It is an interactive map of all the states in the union. And I believe there's also Washington, D.C., though. Will I be able to find it on, by clicking?
Yeah, it's there. Look at the little dots on the right-hand side.
Yep, there it is. Yep. And so they have it listed, and they've got four categories. They've got Chad State, which is a state that got 100% on their score chart. They've got a free-ish state, which is 85 to 95. They have
99.
99, yes. State of confusion, which is 70 to 84, and then state of disaster, which is below 70. And so they have got a number of categories. You know what? I'll click over here. Let's see. Does the state prohibit or restrict the purchase, possession, or transfer of common handguns, as in other firearms rosters? Does the state prohibit or restrict the purchase, possession, transfer of semi-automatic firearms, aka assault weapons bans? Does the state prohibit restriction of purchase, possession, or transfer of short-barreled rifles, or otherwise compliant with federal law, NFA registration? Does the state prohibit short shotguns, machine guns? Let's see, suppressors, purchase, possession, transfer of firearms magazines with based on a capacity limit. So other magazine bans. Does the state prohibit purchase or transfer of body armor? Does the state restrict personal manufacture of firearms? And then there's a whole bunch of carry stuff. I don't want to read the rest of it. But what I love about this is, number one, this is absolute page out of, first it was the Brady campaign that did it for a long time. And then now it is being done by Giffords with the state report cards. And so they're doing this, and they're doing this from the standpoint of a pro Second Amendment group. And also their grading is tough. There is only two states listed as Chad states. One is Kansas and the other one is New Hampshire.
See, I don't know which surprises me more, that Alaska wasn't a Chad state or that Kansas is.
Yeah,
this is all news to me, but I do have to say, as a Floridian, being labeled as a state of confusion is just absolutely apropos.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, we could pretty easily get up to free-ish state if we just allowed 18 to 20-year-olds to carry, and that would like eliminate two categories. Well, that one and the ban on them purchasing firearms or ammunition. Just, treat adults like adults, and that would knock off two categories and probably get us up there to the same level as Georgia. But
so I
don't know how long that's going to happen.
I clicked on Alaska, and so Alaska has 95.45%, and it has 95.45% because it has one bad mark, one demerit. So it is very, very easy to get to that level. And that is that, you can't carry a firearm in Alaska if you are 18 to 20 years old.
So this is what I'm confused by here. And so the criterion literally states, does the state impose an age-based ban on the ability of 18 to 20-year-old adults to acquire a license or permit to carry handguns in public for self-defense? But hang on a minute, Alaska's constitutional carry.
Yes, well they do also have a permit though. And it may also be that, so I know that one of the ones that I was looking at that I was kind of surprised at was Wyoming. And Wyoming also got that in the fact that even though they're constitutional carry, I believe, number one, it's only constitutional carry for residents, and there are still many, many restrictions placed on where you can permitlessly carry. But but Vermont is the only state in the union that does not issue a permit of any sort. They've essentially, Vermont never passed a gun law. Until very, very recently. They passed a bunch of hunting regulations, so there was some weird stuff that didn't kind of see, like you're not allowed to have a loaded gun in your car unless it's a concealed handgun, because they didn't want people jacking deer. And there was a suppressor ban for a number of years that was later reversed because they were worried that poachers were going to use suppressors to conceal their ill deeds. But essentially, Vermont has never issued a permit of any sort for the concealed carry of firearms. It's always just been perfectly legal. If you can legally own a firearm, you can. And I believe it goes all the way down to 16, if I remember, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, they are. I agree with you in the fact that it seems like some of these are a little bit pedantic, But pedantic is good. This is lighting a fire under people's butts. Is the try just like there are states that are trying real hard that when Giffords comes out with their report card, they are trying to get the lowest possible score. Like, can I get below an F? Is there an F minus? And the same thing goes with this card. And yeah, I love it. Though the one thing I am bummed about is that Massachusetts has a score of 40.9 and California has a score of 4.5. So California has firmly beat Massachusetts. New York also beats Massachusetts. Again, it's all which state is the worst is all dependent on how you weight certain damages of freedoms. But yeah, it's this is a great little map, and if you are in one of these gun friendly states, this is definitely a great little thing of the name and shame for your legislatures of the you call yourself a Second Amendment state. Well, how come Kansas is kicking our butt? How come New Hampshire is kicking our butt? And so last up, I got a little self-defense. Sean Sorrentino sent me this one, and really just wanted to throw it in there, I guess kind of as a feel-good story. This is, of course, in Florida. Let's see. They say,
of course, it's in Florida. It's not that bad here.
Well, no, it's in Southern Florida. A man walks up to a family. They don't identify the family, so I'm unsure if he's correct on the term, but essentially he asks them if they're Jewish, and then essentially states that, I'm not going to repeat any of what he said, but essentially stating that he does not like Jews and in fact does not like them in a violent way. And so the man pulled a gun on him, and then both people ended up calling 911. But it does appear that, I mean, especially they're not naming the guy. So, the man who appears to be the aggressor was definitely arrested, and the man who pulled the gun, has not been charged. And so,
so it's actually, I'm not going to say more complicated, but I think that you're leaving out some key facts here.
Okay.
So first of all, he asked if the man who was there with his children, I don't remember if you said that, asked if they were Jewish, and the man confirmed that they were, in fact, Jewish. And so then this person began verbally assaulting them, which is, as the victim later said, that's his freedom of speech. But it escalated to the aggressor telling the victim that he was going to attack him and F him up. Now, that's the point at which the victim tried to de-escalate, I think is what he phrased it as. But he said, it told him to stop and told him to stay away. And the aggressor continued to press him. And so remember, he's there with two of his children, age 7 and 5. And so when you've got someone who is being verbally aggressive and tossing out ethnic slurs and making threats to harm people, that's when the man drew his gun. And it doesn't specifically say that the man retreated, but here it is. Yes, the sight of the weapon caused him to retreat briefly, and there were lots of people who were witnessing this, and they called 911. They may not have known exactly what was going on. They just saw the gun. But anyway, even though he had a gun drawn on him and he did retreat briefly, he later began moving back towards them and continued making verbal threats. So not even the threat of being shot was dissuading him. And fortunately for the victim, there was a witness nearby who told the victim to stand behind her, and she called the police and recorded the incident. Now, what happens here is very interesting because of the multiple 911 calls, both the aggressor and the victim called 911. And the aggressor called and said that someone had drawn a gun on him, completely leaving out his aggressive behavior. And, of course, the victim called and explained what happened. And so when the victim and the woman he was with began recording, he decided to leave and left the park in a car, and then the police caught up with him and arrested him. And so this was very definitely the beginning of a hate crime, because, all assault is bad. Potentially assaulting a father in front of his children, or maybe even assaulting the children, is worse. The fact that it has a racial component is also much worse. And so, hey, the victim did nothing wrong, and I'm glad that the police saw this, because they aren't listing his name. There's nothing in there about how he was arrested. But what's interesting here is that the police report says that the aggressor appears mentally unstable, and expressed that he wouldn't be alive in a few months because he has stage 4 cancer. So this unfortunately sounds like someone going, I have nothing to lose, and I'm honestly surprised it didn't end with a terminal shootout with the police. But the innocent people were relatively unscathed. I mean, the man and his children were shaken, and understandably so, but no harm came to them. And the aggressor, he's already been involved in a bond hearing, and the prosecutor asked to have a much higher bond, considering the fact that it was racially motivated and in the presence of children. And so the judge agreed. And so this guy is now being held on $5,000 bond. And he's currently at the correctional center, which means he can't make bond. So, in as much as one of these things can turn out well for all concerned, it turned out well for all concerned.
Yep, I agree. And I only say that in the fact that southern Florida is renowned for its Jewish population, and it is good to know that they are well-armed Jews.
Yes.
And the I hadn't seen the terminal cancer side of it, so I am surprised that either it didn't end with a shootout of police or him just going for it and attempting to harm this man or his children, because he wasn't afraid of getting shot, because that's sometimes people will choose to do that instead of dying of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the segments, Oddball's been on the road, so he asked a guest to record a episode of Oddball's Corner Pocket.
Hello and welcome to Oddball's Corner Pocket. I am not Oddball. We will just call me the Mystery Knife Reviewer. So I just recently got my hands on a gravity knife. And so, for those that don't know, gravity knives are really just what they say. They are knives that are dependent on gravity to open. Probably the most common one you may have ever encountered is I'm not even going to try to name, but in World War II, the Nazi Germans issued paratrooper knives, and probably also after World War II, issued knives to paratroopers, and these knives had a spring-loaded essentially latch on the side. Turn the latch, flip the handle upside down, the blade would drop down, stop, then you could flip the latch over again and lock it in place. And then if you needed to close it, you turn it up, flip the latch, gravity will pull the knife back into the handle. It essentially acts like an out-the-front switchblade, except with no springs whatsoever, just gravity. It also had a marlin spike on the end of it in case lines got tangled. So the knife that I got is a Reate EXO, the original first series. This one is discontinued. I found it at the Kittery trading post in Kittery, Maine, and it was something that I've been wanting for a long, long time. And it is I call it the EXO because it has an exoskeleton. Essentially, the scales of the knife are on a essentially external frame, and then the knife itself is on an internal frame with a pair of tracks. So essentially, and there's 2 cutouts on either side that lock up with the studs that ride along the track of the knife. So you open the handle, allow the knife to drop down, close the handle, and it locks in place like a fixed blade while you're holding it. Want it to close, let the handle open up again, the knife will drop down inside of it so long as you hold it in a proper orientation. Also, you can open it by simply allowing the 2 parts to come apart and then flick it open, and the momentum will not only pull the knife out, but also slam the case closed. It makes a really, really nice kind of fidget toy, and it annoys my wife. Because of its design, it is essentially fully ambidextrous. Like, this is one of the few knives where operating it with your weak side hand is no more difficult than operating it with your strong side hand. Because it is fully ambidextrous. It's just how you can do the exact same motion with either hand, no matter how you're holding the handle. And because it behaves like an out-the-front knife, it also allows for pretty much any blade shape you can think of, from, your standard, drop point knife blades to your Tonto styles, but also you can have your double-edged dagger and spear point blades, because at no point in time do you need to actually put your hand on the blade of the knife. This one is discontinued because it also has absolutely no safeties or pocket clips or anything like that. They since put forward the EXO-M, which has a small locking switch on one side and a pocket clip. I'm not sure if it's reversible or not, but essentially a pocket clip so you can stick it in a pocket. For me personally, I carry mine in the change pocket on my jeans, and it is just the right width that there's no way that it's going to open. But if you want to carry an original EXO, caution is advised. But other than that, these are extremely safe, which hilariously, just like out the front switchblades, which up until very recently were banned most places, these 2 are also banned in most places. And they are, just like switchblades, extremely safe, because you can simply, while you're cutting something, if you are done cutting, you just simply relax your hand along essentially the front strap of the handle, allow it to open up, the blade drops away, and then you can hold on to it to keep it closed, and the blade will stay inside and will be unable to cut anything until you deploy it a second time. So it's really, really safe and a really, really nice design. An out-the-front switchblade is probably a little bit more safe, only because it's just simply the push of a switch and you don't need to rely on any sort of dexterity to deploy the blade. That being said, this one is like switchblade expensive. I got mine used, so I actually got a pretty good deal on it. But according to some links in the show notes, this knife can run to almost $300, mostly because it's got a titanium frame, and also the blade is L-Max steel, which supposedly is some pretty darn good stuff. And the blade is razor sharp, and I have been using it a lot, and I haven't touched it yet since going through. And again, I bought this used, so I don't know how heavily it was used beforehand. The EXO-M is a little bit cheaper. They run about $120 and come in a rainbow of colors and just about every blade style that you can go for. They use an aluminum frame instead of titanium to bring the cost down quite a bit. It's also a slightly smaller knife. Mine is a 3-inch or 3.5-inch blade. These ones are a 3-inch blade. So I mentioned that it's safe. I handed it to my daughter and let her try it out, and she was enamored with it and decided that she wanted one of her own. And she's not that much of a knife person just yet. It's not like she's someone who's every day carrying a knife. It's not like she's someone who can every day carry a knife since she goes to school, and that would be against the rules. So I decided to do a little bit of digging, and I found on Amazon, this one's by cckk, And yeah, it's a cheap copy. It's about $40. And there's a number of, essentially, they're the EXO-M, pretty much exactly cloned. And there's a bunch of different makers on Amazon. I can only speak for this one. I bought it because, number one, she was interested in it, and she was thrilled by getting it. But two, I really wanted to see, okay, how do you take a essentially precision machined knife, because the blade has to slide pretty much perfectly down these rails so that, number one, the blade doesn't drag against the frame and dull the edge, but also so that it's sliding easily. How do you do that and actually make a working blade? And so this one came out, and it is noticeably cheaper. The materials feel about fine. The handle and all that, the switches all work good. The blade is allegedly D2, though many of these bargain knives may either not heat treat them properly or straight up lie about what steel is used. It certainly seems to take a good edge and is quite sharp and works all right, but there is a noticeable amount of friction along the track as the blade comes in and out. And there can definitely times when you can open it up and the blade does not come out and it needs a little shake. With this one, you definitely want to do a little bit more of a flick to get it through. It'll probably break in, and if you wanted to get some like lithium grease or something like that to put it along the bearing surfaces, might actually improve the performance quite a bit as well, and possibly also make it a little more quiet. There's definitely also a noticeable metal on metal grind because the surfaces just aren't as glassy as on the Reate. But for $40 and for, hey, let me check this out, especially if you are in a place where gravity knives are not legal to carry, spending almost $200 or $300 on a knife that you really can only carry around in the house doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. As for here, I haven't heard specifically on Massachusetts, but I looked up the law books and I can't find gravity knives on the books anymore. So if not, the decision that made it so that automatic knives are perfectly legal will be certainly a great court precedent to cite in the odd event that I get jammed up for carrying an illegal gravity knife. Yeah, so that is my review on essentially two different gravity knives, the Reate EXO and the cheap Amazon clone. Links are in the show notes, and go ahead and check them out.
Mystery knife reviewer, eh?
Who was that masked man?
It was you, Weer'd. You did it. J'accuse.
It can't be Weird Beard. Weird Beard wears glasses. How would he see?
I mean, I know it was you because even though you dropped the register down, but talked about it would being a fidget that annoyed your wife, and you lent it to your daughter, and you got it at the Kittery trading post, which is a known stomping ground of yours. But perhaps most damning is the fact that a couple of weeks ago, you posted a bunch of videos about the knife. It was you.
I'd like to speak to my lawyer. Am I being detained? I did ask Oddball. I said, Oddball, this is more of a your department than my department. And I asked him. I said, what do you think with the voice changed? And he thought that was pretty hilarious.
I mean, I will admit that for a bit it was like, wait, I don't know who this is, but it seems familiar. I think the voice has been changed, and I couldn't tell you exactly when it was that I had figured out it was you, although I did have a really strong inkling based upon the whole video thing. But the moment you mentioned that you did it and it annoyed your wife, it was just, no, that's it. That's you.
I was wondering if it sparked you just to throw it into Audacity and just adjust the pitch up.
I mean, I would have if I wasn't convinced it was you. But I was convinced. It looks like a really nice knife, but it's how much did you say it was? 200 something?
For the shoot, now I'm I can go click on the link. So the Reate EXO-M, which is the current one that has the lock on it, is, let's see, there's some that are $120. There are some that are almost $300.
Yeah, that's too expensive for me. I'd rather have the money.
Yep.
I am, however, intrigued by the knockoff aluminum one from Amazon, which is like $32.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it is not as nice. And also, if you are handy, it might actually be a fun little project to either try to polish up the bearing surfaces a little bit or lube them up or various things to see if you can get closer. But yeah, no, that was exactly why I bought it because my daughter was interested in one, and I wasn't going to spend that kind of money on a knife for her. If she becomes more of a knife nerd, maybe. But at this point in time, that is a price where if she ends up forgetting about it and it just sits on a shelf for a while, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it was a waste. And but also I really just wanted to review to see, like, okay, how much does this suffer from being a cheaper manufacturer?
I'm not seeing what kind of steel the blade is made from.
It says D2 on mine, but again, whether that is or not is left for interpretation.
Okay.
I haven't done any heavy cutting with her knife to see how well it holds an edge. It definitely takes an edge. I touched it up a little bit. It came reasonably sharp, but why leave well enough alone when you can really touch up the blade? And it took a really good edge. I just don't know how long it'll hold it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if it's something that's one of those, you're curious about it, like, that's definitely the way to go, because you could have the knife-shaped fidget tool.
Okay, cool. Just add that to my cart. Not going to buy it now, but in case I get some mad money.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nifty. That is a cool little treasure. And speaking of which, David spins us a yarn about finding lost treasure.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. As I've talked about in previous episodes, secure firearm storage is extremely important, but it does come with potential downsides. So in this segment, I'd like to talk about the safe place paradox. First, a story. Recently, my wife and I visited my late father's wife. After he passed about 6 years ago, she gave me, among other things, his firearms and related accoutrements. All save a single pistol, along with its ammunition and some range items, which she wanted to keep for home protection. As her vision has deteriorated, she no longer feels comfortable with a firearm for self-defense. This is a very responsible decision, and I applaud her for making it. So on this visit, she gave me the range bag with all the above items. Except there was one small problem. No pistol. I emptied the bag to make sure. Still no pistol. When I mentioned this to her, she checked several places she remembered my father storing it. No joy. This initiated a search of the entire house. She became convinced one of the workmen who'd come to the house over the years must have stolen the gun. I was less confident in that conclusion. The theoretical thief would have had to find the range bag, recognize it for what it was, open it, remove the gun, while leaving all the ammunition, spare magazines, and other items, close the bag, and put it back where they'd discovered it. I thought this chain of events rather unlikely. Over an hour of searching later, my wife finally found the pistol. All honor belongs to her. It was hidden in a fake book on one of the bookshelves. To be precise, it wasn't in the first fake book she found, but the second one. Sometime over the past few years, my father's wife had decided to put the pistol in a really good, really safe hiding place. After a collective sigh of relief, we all had a good laugh. I'm sure more than a few of our listeners hearing this are nodding knowingly, having stored something in a safe place only to forget where that was located. Doing that with a diary or piece of jewelry is one thing. Doing it with a firearm is absolutely another. As gun owners, it is 100% our responsibility to control access to our firearms, which means, in part, knowing where they are at all times. Obviously, folks who only own a few firearms will have an easier time keeping track of them. Those of us with larger collections may need documentation of some sort, especially people who like to stage loaded guns in different parts of the house. Many people like to have a bedroom gun, a kitchen gun, even a shower gun in case of home invasion. Currently, I have 3 gun safes, 1 large and 2 smaller ones in different parts of the house. They each have their own focus. For example, one of the smaller ones holds my shotguns and a couple older rifles I don't shoot that often. I already have a database for tracking my collection. Something I've been planning to add to it for a while now has been pushed up the list by the mystery of the vanishing pistol. Specifically, I intend to add location information for each firearm record. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or complicated, simpler is usually better. Maybe just a safe A, B, or C notation in the notes section. I may even add this data point as a new field, which would make searches and report generation easier. Since I don't switch my firearms between secure locations very often, once this detail is entered, it shouldn't require much, if any, updating. As security is an essential part of gun ownership, keeping this information from prying eyes is also key. With paper records, keep them in a document safe. With electronic records, use an appropriate level of encryption. Regardless, we need to keep track of our firearms. Not just for us, but for our heirs when that time eventually comes. Oh, and in case anyone was wondering, yes, we are going to look for more hiding places like the ones we've already discovered. Who knows, maybe we'll find pirate treasure in one of them. Have fun and safe shooting.
We're nothing but murdering pirates.
Pirates? Pirates. Oh, Jim, if that's what you're thinking, you're dead wrong.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments, or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Aaron or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
I gotta say, and honestly speaking, I should have asked him when he was before we started recording. He usually he popped on for a little bit. I should have asked him if the book had a clever title, because you always see that.
I mean, when I had dinner with him last week and he told me this story in much greater detail, he didn't mention it. And so either he doesn't remember or it didn't have a remarkable title.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not.
Yeah, but I always like the books that have a clever title that when you're reading the spines just going through, you wouldn't necessarily pick that out as what's up with this one, but when you do pull it out and realize that it has hidden items inside, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I of course mentioned my father's stroke, and this reminded me of what's going on right now, in the fact that, my dad's unable to speak and definitely is easily confused by some stuff. So my mom has been really, really struggling to get a lot of the things that dad was just in charge of doing in order. And so this just reminds me of that, make sure that you have things sorted out for in the event that your partner has a medical event or passes away, so that it is easier for the other person to kind of pick up where you left off. And on a very, very similar level is a very close friend of mine. And actually I met him through his daughter. His daughter is a close friend of my wife's, and I became very, very close friends with him. And, but at the end of his life, he had a lot of health problems. And one time during one of the events, he got rushed off to the hospital, and we were pretty sure that he was going to need to go into like a rehab facility for a while before he was able to recover. And I'm trying to remember if he actually even went back to the apartment that he was living in, or if he went and lived with them or some other stuff. But essentially, people who have aging parents know a lot of these stories. But I got called up and saying, can you come over to Dad's apartment? We're going to go through, and I want to make sure that all the guns are packed up and in a safe condition while he's in the hospital. And because I knew him very, very well, once I had policed up all the various guns, I said, we need to look a little bit harder because one of his favorites I haven't found yet. And so I know that it's around there. And it was, in fact, tucked underneath his mattress.
Do you have a shower gun, Weer'd?
I do not have a shower gun.
Really?
Yeah. I actually don't have guns particularly staged around my house. I generally am of the ilk of the I have the few places that I will be lounging around in my PJs. I have guns nearby, and then when I get dressed, I put a gun on.
How is it I am more gun than you in this case?
Maybe because you are Aaron Paulette of Blue Collar Prepping.
But I do in fact have a shower gun.
Tell me about your...
Well, all right. I don't know what model it is, and you're going to want to know, so stand by while I go get it, because it's like 10 feet away. All right, so it's not technically a shower gun, because I don't keep it in the shower, but it sits on the toilet tank inside a watertight box that's full of desiccant packets to ensure that moisture doesn't get in and interfere with the ammunition. But it is a... Hang on, because my vision is terrible. Weer'd, you're going to be very happy to know that this is a Ruger LCR 357 Magnum. And so it's a revolver.
I am actually shocked. I was thinking for sure it's not a revolver.
Well, this is one of my father's guns.
Okay.
And my thinking here is that if anything happens to it, I'm not going to be heartbroken. And also, I'm kind of banking on revolver reliability so that in case there's a problem, I'll just pull the trigger again. And I also have inside the box, and also it's sealed in, I've got a vacuum sealer, so, that plastic. Mm-hmm. I have a speed loader and a speed strip with extra ammunition. Now, I'm probably never going to need it, and that's fine. In fact, I hope that I never need it. But honestly, I did it more for the fact that I could say that I have a shower gun. Because, I'm pretty sure Larry Correa has a shower gun, and I wanted to follow in his example.
Well, that was like the other day, David posted a link to, I think it was Palmetto State Armory, where they were having a sale on the North American Arms belt buckle gun.
Oh Lord, that thing!
And he's like, for anybody who needs a conversation starter, which is absolutely the correct statement for that. On the is it a great gun? No, not really. That's what he is. Just in case anyone needs a conversation starter. And at the time of this recording, they have the North American Arms 22 long rifle revolver with belt buckle for $300, which is actually it's a really nice price for just the revolver alone. But then the added belt buckle just adds a certain je ne sais quoi.
Why 22 long? If it were 22 Magnum, I could at least understand that. But
I would argue that the 22 Magnum out of that microscopic barrel is really just 22 long rifle with a lot more noise and a lot more expense. And also, I have one that's in the 22 long rifle, and I wouldn't want anything else. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of they make the top break model is only in 22 Magnum and with a conversion cylinder, but it's one of those like, why not make it shorter? So that's my opinion. I don't know if the 22 Magnum you're getting that much extra out of it, and it's
fair enough.
They are a pain in the butt to shoot. Like, it is not a practical gun in any sense of the word.
Anyway, I do recall that however many years ago you did recommend that I acquire an LCR, and as it turns out, I have one now.
Yes. Have you shot it?
I don't recall.
Well, I will say that that when I bought mine, I just saw it as a cheaper alternative to the the Smith & Wesson 640 PD, which is the titanium cylinder scandium framed 357 ultra lightweight, J-frame revolver. And JG has what he calls the Snubby from Hell, which is the 360. So that's the one with the exposed hammer. And that gun is one of the most miserable guns to shoot. Like, it is straight up painful. Smith & Wesson 500 Magnums aren't as nasty. My Ruger Alaskan in 454 Casull is not as nasty as that gun. It's just so light that it just wants to buck on you. And
how does it compare to your Ratum?
The Ratum is only bad because the trigger is 25 pounds. It's not the pressure coming back at you. It's the pressure you have to put into it to make it go off.
Okay.
The Ratum is it's just a Walther PPK. So it's the terribleness on that is it's just got a horrendous trigger and a ridiculous trigger. Cause again, 25 pounds double action, 4.5 pounds single action. It's a meme gun. But yeah, it's nasty. And I ended up, but I'm a recoil whore, so I'm kind of into that. And so when I saw that essentially the Ruger LCR could be had at pretty much half the price of what Smith is asking for theirs, I said, you know what? I'm going to get my hands on one. And so and it happened to be, they didn't have one at the shop at the time. They said, give me $20 and on your phone number and I'll call you when one comes in. Okay. Then a few weeks later, I got a phone call, went in, and as I went in, they also had one of the 22 long rifle ones. So I picked up a pair of LCRs. And, but when I took it to the range, I first, loaded up with some 38 specials, and it was fine. It was a perfectly reasonable gun to shoot. And then I loaded up with a 357 and found it to be remarkably pleasant. I mean, it's a lot of gun. It is a bit of a handful, but it is not such a cautionary tale as, say, the Smith & Wesson lightweights, or say a very, very heavy big bore revolver like a 44 Magnum or a 454 Casull type revolver. So yeah, I will say that it'll clear your sinuses, but not in a masochistic way. And also, Aaron, as far as shower guns go, it's not only is it a revolver for revolver reliability, but it's also a plastic revolver. So you've got that going for it too.
I mean, parts of it are metal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's I think it's pretty much, it's all, the frame's all stainless steel with a diamond-like coating, and then a ceramic coating, and then the internal parts. But I think it's all stainless. So I'd be kind of surprised that I think your desiccant packets and all of that stuff should be a pretty good challenge accepted for that gun to be working.
Okay, great.
And also, I will say that I had a few years back when we got a tremendous amount of rain. My basement flooded, and some of my ammo ended up going underwater. And and I'm going to say that I fished it all out and dried it off. And in the case of some of my Russian surplus stuff, that stuff, with steel cases got a little bit rusty. And I ended up just like with a scrubby pad, and I can't remember if I used WD-40 or what I used, but ended up cleaning it all off, and all that stuff went off. But my commercial ammo, that stuff went off like a charm. No big deal, no harm. It was underwater and not a problem. So I wouldn't necessarily, it wasn't underwater for, more than a few hours, but it was fully inundated. So actually, I would be surprised if the humidity from a bathroom especially since I assume you've got good hollow points in there, like that ammo is pretty much indestructible.
I have Hornady critical self-defense with the plastic tip.
Nice. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work just fine. And I'm pretty sure like they seal the primer pockets, and they might even have a little bit of sealant around the crimp just for those very reasons, because you're going to be carrying it. So you will be carrying they expect you to be carrying in the rain. They expect you to be carrying in the hot sun and sweating all over your gun.
Okay.
Do you occasionally change out the desiccant packets?
Actually, I haven't, and maybe I should, but I've got a lot of them in here.
Okay.
I mean, so I'll send you a picture, but it's a full box, and I basically buried the gun in it. I mean, it was surrounded by desiccant packs on all sides. So
yeah, and I don't know how you can tell when a desiccant pack has given up the ghost. I know.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure, but you would think that they would absorb moisture and clump, and I'm sitting here hearing them rattle, and that sounds pretty dry to me.
Well, I ripped one open once and dumped it into a glass of water just to see what it would do, and they actually all shattered. So, yeah,
shattered.
Yeah, they cracked. Like it was like dropping ice cubes into a glass of water. It wasn't explosive, but like they split into half and into pieces.
Huh.
Something for future research.
It's a lot of desiccant packets.
Mm-hmm. And so, can you just rip open the ammo pack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know some of those vacuum seal packs, you really kind of need a knife to get into them. And
well, I mean, it's also loaded, so it's not like I'm storing it unloaded.
Yeah.
But
we just love it. It's like a little lunchbox.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a watertight box that I got at Walmart, but it's got a rubber gasket, and it's got 2 clamps to, the latches that kind of ratchet down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm happy with it. I acknowledge it's more of a silly thing than anything else, but hey, just in case, I got it if I need it.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. It is really, really cool.
Well, thank you. But do you know who else is really, really cool? Like a shower gun?
They are our listeners, and Aaron is absolutely correct. Thank you so much, all of you fine listeners. We appreciate you, and we hope you enjoyed this show. And we must give a very special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. To get our Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/Assorted Podcast to sign up. You guys help keep the lights on. You may, if you listen to multiple podcasts, you may have a podcast in your thing that has ads. By the way, the supplier that we have that we upload the podcast to and distributes them has given me the option to click and put ads on this, and I have not done it because of you Patreon patrons. We appreciate you so much, and if you get annoyed by those ads like I do as well, thank a patron. Maybe consider signing up, because again, it's not a tip jar. We're not begging. We sell stuff. You can get early release of the podcast. You can get the ACP blooper reels. You can get the ACP film tracks, and there's the ACP mag dump.
And be sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Cast when you listen to us. Subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I've got a blog. It's weerdworld.com. That's WEERDworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can... Well, you can theoretically get more from me at linktree/Aaron Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Aaron Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
I live in the state of confusion, and he lives in the state of disaster. Our states are assorted, and so's our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.